Okay, so a few people are still coming online, but we'll go ahead and get started so we don't have too much of a delay. So thank you so much for joining us today. We'll be talking about why and how to involve children and youth in WASH initiatives. So today's children and youth, which is typically defined by the UN as individuals under the age of 30 actually, are tomorrow's future leaders. When we're talking about the context of the Sustainable Development Goals, these individuals also bear the burden of ending poverty in all its forms everywhere by 2030, which is what the SDGs call for. It's also on their shoulders that rests ensuring that all humans on Earth have access to clean drinking water and a safe and dignified toilet. So it's with this in mind that we'll be discussing one of my personal favorite topics, and that's how and why to involve children and youth in WASH initiatives. So this is the fourth and last of our Water Action Month webinar series hosted by End Water Poverty. And I think it's a great way to wrap up the month by looking ahead at the future and discussing how to empower this next generation of change makers. So thank you so much for joining us today for this important discussion. And we'll just be having one more speaker come online. So hopefully she comes online in the next couple of minutes as we introduce the session and other speakers as well. Okay, great. So here is our agenda for our discussion today. As I mentioned, we have four fantastic panelists that are tuning in from South Africa, Nepal, Nigeria, and the UK. So I'll introduce them individually in just a second, but first wanted to give you a glimpse of what they'll be discussing and what we'll be hearing about today. So we'll be hearing from Joanna Fatch with a general overview of challenges and opportunities with regards to working with youth. And Joanna's having a bit of technical difficulties coming online, so we might have to come back to her once she's able to join the session and get started with our next speaker, who is Keith Dunmall. And Keith will be talking about leveraging national and international networks to empower this young generation. Bamala Gurung will then share stories and insights from Nepal. And last but not least, Temple Oraiki is also online, and he will tell us about HopeSpring Water's Water Action Month activities in Nigeria. So to tell you a bit more about each of our speakers, I'll start by introducing myself. So my name is Alix. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm the campaign consultant at End Water Poverty. So I've been coordinating our Water Action Month campaign and hosting our webinar series this month. So liaising with organizations all over the world and making sure they have tools and resources available to advocate for their cause throughout Water Action Month. And also joining us today is Joanna Fatch. Joanna is the Southern Africa Regional Representative for Youth at the Global Water Partnership. So it's a privilege to have Joanna online as well. Keith Dunmall is at WaterAid, and he's the Youth Engagement Manager there. And Bimala is based in Nepal and is the program officer at GUTHI, who's one of End Water Poverty's fantastic member organizations. And also a member of End Water Poverty is HopeSpring Water, and we have Temple Oraiki with us today, who's the national coordinator there. So it's such a pleasure and honor for me to be working with these four fantastic speakers for today's discussion. So I'm just taking a look at our list of attendees here, and I don't see Joanna online yet. I'm chatting with her on Skype on a separate computer, but I think that for now, Keith, if it's okay with you, I'd like to skip over to your presentation, and then we can come back to Joanna's presentation once she's able to come online. I think that would probably be the best way to move forward. So forgive the fast scrolling through slides here for a second. Or you know what, I will just pause the presentation, and I can skip over to Keith's. I'll go ahead and start it again. Okay, so Keith, I'll go ahead and unmute you or send you an unmute request, and what I can do as well is give you over the mouse control. So if you can unmute your microphone and you have control of the mouse as well, you can click through the slides yourself. If you would prefer me to do that for you, I'm also happy to do so.
Hi Alice, that's great. Very happy to click through the slides if you hand over control for that.
Okay, wonderful. You should have the control, so the floor is yours.
Can't currently move them.
Okay, no problem. I can, sometimes it's a little glitchy, so I can go ahead and click through the slides myself if you tell me when to change.
Okay, in which case, hello everyone. As you know, my name is Keith and my role is Youth Engagement Manager at WaterAid. We work across 37 countries, and in each of those countries we have varying levels of work that we do with young people. But today I'm going to be looking at the work we do in the UK and how we link that to the lives of people in the other countries in which we work. Slide 2, please. There are 3 reasons we work with young people. So there's the organisational reason, a social reason, and then a developmental reason. We'll look at 2 of those at slides, and then the other one will come out very much as part of the programme that I'll be talking about today. Next slide, please. So we're currently in the process of changing our relationship with all of our supporters. We're replacing the older transactional, slightly didactic, almost deficit model approach to interaction with a deeper engagement model. And through that, next slide please. Through that, young people will continue to demonstrate their influence across the generations. Now, this is very much a UK-focused presentation, so please obviously hold for the UK. But the influence of young people on the people around them, the older people around them, parents, grandparents, and teachers, the wider society is demonstrable in Britain. Next slide, please. And it's great that young people want to raise money for us, and it's something that we will obviously continue to encourage as we work towards our 2030 goal. But it's not only that we're looking for when we're thinking about how, as an organisation, we work with young people. Next slide, please. It's these people beyond them that we're trying to get to. It's this type of social media interaction that will help us push that influence that they have with the people around them to a wider group. Next slide, please. So the second why is a mixture, really. It's the reasons young people choose WASH, and it's the impact that those young people will have on WASH as they grow up. I'm sure a lot of these points are very familiar to everyone, so I won't labour them particularly. The thing that always strikes me is we talk about WASH as a rights issue more and more, but I think that's something that young people have understood from the moment they encounter it. Next slide, please. So in the UK, the way that we're approaching this is through a partnership with the UK Scouts Association. As you can see from the rather lovely purple image, it's called A Million Hands. The reason it's called that is because there are 500,000 scouts in the UK, so their suggestion is that's 1 million hands to help charities in their actions. Next slide, please. So it's a program that's running for 4 years, and what Scouts want to do is reconnect with their older principle of helping people around them, helping their society, helping their community. And Scouts devised this program looking for partners, and they asked charities to make their pitch, and WaterAid was successful among them. Next slide, please. And the idea is to do something meaningful. It's to engage young people and to get them to really connect, to build knowledge of the issue that they're engaged with, and to gain skills to then translate that knowledge and share it with their community. It's a 5-point program, and each of those steps moves them a little bit closer towards ultimately the Tell the World phase, which is the one that takes them out into their communities. Next slide, please. So it's a huge program. There are a choice of modules for the young people to pick from. There are over 60 activities that Scouts from 8 to 25 can choose from. There are suggested ages for those activities. And everything works towards a badge. And if any of you have been Scouts or know Scouts, you will know how important badges are. And the interesting thing from my perspective, from WaterAid's perspective, is that we work in Madagascar. And what the Scouts are doing in Madagascar
Keith, if you can hear me, it seems that your microphone has maybe gone offline, or you might have lost some internet connection. Oh.
Okay.
Okay, I can hear you again. Great. So, sorry, go ahead.
I'm after the next slide, please, after the program of parallels. So the very first thing about the program is that it is for young people to decide who they want to get involved with, and there's a support pack to enable them to make that choice. It's picking the issue, and as you can see, there's a range of things that will appeal to young people across a variety of ages. Again, the important thing here is that young people are making these choices. The panel that brought this down to the last 6 charities was a panel made up of young people. Next slide, please. So once they've picked their issue, the Scouts have to then learn a little bit about it, and we've got resources in place to help them do that. One of the things that we did early on in the program was take some young people out to Madagascar and let them engage with the community projects that we were doing there, and also to meet with the Scouts in Madagascar, which you will see over the next few slides. Next slide, please. So Scouts are very much hands-on. They do like to get in and understand things through doing. So it was very important for us to have images of young people from the UK engaging with the issue. And also these young people that you can see in the image are sort of senior Scouts. So they're each influential in their area and have proven to be advocates within Scouting for us. Next slide, please. So in order to understand the need, we flag up that this is something that Scouts like them encounter every day. It is very much a Scout-to-Scout program, and the activities that we have Scouts doing in the UK, through play and also through some reflective work, will give them the skills to start to talk a little more clearly about these issues. Next slide, please. Inevitably, carrying water is a classic example that we use to demonstrate the gap between turning on a tap and having to bring your water home in a can. Next slide, please. And then to lighten things, the preciousness of water. How do you move water carefully among so many people? Next slide, please. We reinforce how important it is for planning before going ahead and rushing out and sharing what it is that they know. And what we've done is built a resource that enables Scouts to understand the community that they're in a little more before they go out and start to share their messages. Next slide, please. And next slide, please. So the community of Scouting provides a powerful way for young people to engage with the world around them, and also provides a structure for them to do that. However, most of the focus is towards action. Next slide, please. So as I mentioned, Scouts are very much focused on doing. So what we've done is found a lot of ways that Scouts are already engaging with their communities and just adapting them slightly so that they become something already familiar that these young people are doing, but then in turn adding the WASH messaging around it. Next slide, please. So in Madagascar, there is something called the GUTHI, which is a big festival where there are songs, there's entertainment, puppet shows, again, all around hygiene messaging. In the UK, there are things called gang shows, which are songs and plays, skits and stories. And again, what we've encouraged is for them to start to adapt those things that are already in place to start to share our messages. Next slide, please. Of course, engaging your community can be anything from a puppet show for young people through to something a little more serious and a little more subtle. So the activity here was putting together a time capsule, and the chap on the left of the image who's wielding the pen is the local mayor, and he was signing that he would like to see and would do everything he could to get water and sanitation to his community. So community action can have impact on influences in the community and people in positions of power. Next slide, please. And again, this is a program built to develop knowledge and then build upon that knowledge. So next slide, please. The wonderful thing for me is discovering which elements of Scouting it is that are most linked to our messaging. So it's proving to be the younger end of the spectrum, which is really rather interesting and rather good. You can see some tippy taps in the background. I just thought I'd point them out because, you know, everyone's pleased to see a tippy tap. Next slide, please. And the really interesting thing is that we're talking about an organisation that in many countries is perceived as traditional, as being a boys' organisation and being old-fashioned. But when it comes to menstrual hygiene management and other issues that you wouldn't necessarily expect that type of organisation to get involved with, there's been a definite understanding that this is part of the messaging and something that needs to be shared in the UK. Next slide, please. So it's the last part of the programme that really moves Scouts out of their comfort zone and into the action we're looking for in the partnership. So alongside raising awareness and raising support among young people, it's important that they go and engage more widely and share their concerns that they have in the world with their community in a variety of ways. Next slide, please. So be that through working with the media, locally or nationally. Next slide, please. Through heading down to the local market and working with people that you would meet every day. Next slide, please. Or having a song, a dance, and a party to draw your local community together. They all count, they all work. Next slide, please. So what does that look like in the UK? Next slide, please. Yes, okay, I didn't draw your tippy tap. You know, the thing was very carefully done, very carefully constructed, very much like this. Scouts in the UK using tippy taps now more and more in their scout camps as the message is getting out. It's proving to be a definite boon for our local.
Sorry, Keith. It looks like your microphone has dropped again, or perhaps it's an internet connection problem. Oh, I think you're back on now. Keith, are you still there?
Hi, yeah. So did you catch the subtle tippy tap link?
Might as well repeat it just in case. I'm not sure if you cut off before or after that.
Okay, so here you can see Scouts in the UK making tippy taps very much in the way that are made in Madagascar, and they're being used here in Scout camps to raise awareness of the wash issue, but also as a practical response to water shortages as they occur in the summer in the places where these Scout camps take place. Next slide, please. So, as you would imagine, there are KPIs, there are performance indicators, and if you could hit the button again, we'll flag how successful the project is. Thank you. So we're getting a lot of groups joining, which is fantastic. You know, this is just what we were looking for. Next slide, please. And again, we're getting that usual Scout mix of activities. So this is a group of beavers who have played Poupla, which, if you want to know more about Poupla, please contact me afterwards. It's a complex game that involves throwing poo at toilets. However, alongside that, they did a bit of fundraising, and as you can see, I'm pretty sure, particularly the guy on the right, they had a lot of fun. Next slide, please. And click again, please. We're talking about a lot of young people getting engaged across all of the charities. So we know this is the number that have signed up. They're signed up in those groups, and it's across, as I say, 4 issues. Next slide, please. we're very, very pleased with the amount of support we're getting from Scouts. So the Scout Association as an organisation has its own communications team, and they've put together activities and they've put together social media responses to the work that we're doing. Next slide, please. But, as is always the case, there's a few things where we're trying to work out exactly how things are moving forward. So the top one of these objectives was one that the Scouts were particularly interested in. When I have a feeling they're not tracking it now because I'm not sure that the program has done quite what they wanted with that. However, it does look like we're going to hit the mark of half of the Scouts in the UK getting involved in a project, which is very pleasing. One of the difficulties is that Scouts aren't feeding back. So not only have we introduced a new program for them. Oh, okay. Sorry, my machine just did a terrible thing, but I don't seem to have disappeared. So that's good. So we have a lot of Scouts recording action, but not all of the ones that are signed up are using the website that's been created for this. And there's a reason for that. This is a new way of working for Scouts. So it's trial upon trial. Next slide, please. However, we've got young people opening doors that might not otherwise have been open for us, so always appreciated. Next slide, please. So as I was saying, we've got 30% of the registered groups have actually made their choice of issues, so there's a big push to change that, and the way that we're dealing with that across all of the partners is to have a much more streamlined program. So whereas before there were 60 options that Scouts could pick from, we're going to create a single pathway through the program and see if that's more appealing. The great news is that 34% of the Scouts that have picked their issue are picking WASH. So there's a real interest and a real appetite among young people in the UK for this issue. And it tends to be the younger Scouts. So it's beavers who are up until the age of 8, Cubs, and then Scouts tend to be the larger groups, and then we drop off as we get into the older groups. Interestingly, the wonderful graph that I'm afraid I haven't put down on here for you shows that the pickup for the mental health charity is sort of the opposite slide. So there's something there of interest. Next slide, please. So young people are doing actions and activities that are recognisable to everyone, I'm sure. Next slide, please. And as you can imagine, a lot of this is about reach. So we're very pleased with the way the media has picked up on the stories around this action. Next slide, please. And there are many successes that we would like to flag. So we're engaging politically, we're engaging socially, and we're engaging a wide range of young people. Next slide, please. So we're focusing now on some of the older Scouts and putting together packages that are more appealing to them. So we've started to aim our volunteering program at the older Scouts to start to bring them into working in that way. Glastonbury is one of our big activities. We take 450 volunteers there to spread the word of WASH and also to keep the toilets clean. That's another huge story, so I'm going to have to move on from that. Next slide, please. And the Glastonbury volunteering is there, so we had no Scouts when the programme started, and we're now up to 23 Scouts that have gone through the selection process. We're getting good numbers of speakers requests. We have a volunteer speaker network that goes out and speaks to groups, and our Scout groups are forming a significant number of those. And again, when it comes to recording the impact of this, I think the interesting number is 48,000 hours spent learning about and sharing the issue, because those hours will be marked, they'll be visible as time progresses. Next slide, please. This is Scouts at one of those party conferences, one of the political conferences, and here they're looking at how we engage in country. So these are slightly older Scouts, and they're looking at the district-wide approach and how to deliver that. Next slide, please. Now, I'm not sure if you can see this clearly, but we have some gentlemen in kilts. This is a program that's run across all 4 nations within the UK, and the individualism within those nations, and the individualism of each of the Scouts involved has really shone through. And I think to close, it's that individualism that really is what this builds on. So we're getting those young individuals to develop some skills, to have some ideas, thinking about their activities, and to build some memories in the way that they engage with the program. And they're then taking those out into society. As I said on the very first, possibly second slide, a 6-year-old today is going to be voting by 2030. So it's really important that we engage with these young people.
Keith, I think we've lost you again. Okay, I think that was your last slide. Thank you so much for this amazing presentation. I love the visuals, and I think it's great to hear about some of the future aspects of Scouts as an organization, ways in which they've been involved with local leaders and politicians as well, and really empowering the young generation to be spokespeople for important issues and initiatives locally and internationally as well. So thanks so much for kicking us off. Joanna has joined us and is online. So as I mentioned, Joanna is a regional representative for youth in Southern Africa with the Global Water Partnership. So I'll switch over to her slides, and Joanna will give us, we'll kind of take a couple of steps back from Keith's presentation and give us an overview of some challenges and opportunities related to working with this particular population. Joanna, I've sent you an unmute request for you to be able to activate your microphone. And in the meantime as well, just a quick note, we are running a little bit behind schedule, so just a note for our attendees to expect the session to go beyond the 30-minute mark. If you can remain with us, that would be great. So Joanna, I see that your microphone is active. I can go ahead and give you the mouse control, but I'm also happy to do the mouse controlling myself as well, but you can give it a shot. So you have the floor, Joanna. Thank you for joining us.
All right, thank you for having me. My name is Joanna Fetch. I am the regional youth focal person for Southern Africa. So I work together with the SADC, the Southern Africa Development Community, and the Global Water Partnership Southern Africa, as well as the WaterAid regional office here, based here in Pretoria. So I am also an Africa rep on the End Water Poverty Steering Committee. But maybe just quickly to go on to the presentation. So I more or less focus on the effort on the continent in terms of the youth effort in the continent. So if you go to the next slide, please. Yes. So On the continent, I think if one looks at it in terms of youth participation in the water sector, the AMCAO policy and strategy for mainstreaming youth in the water sector, I think, becomes one of the most important, I guess, milestones for the youth initiative on the continent. It was formulated in an attempt to come up with a clear and harmonized strategy and action plan for mainstreaming youth in the sector, especially recognizing that the youth can play a role in implementing high-level commitments on the continent. And these, among others, are the Africa Water Vision 2025 and the Sharm el-Sheikh Declaration and the Tikwini Declaration, among others. So it was a long process. I think if one is to look at it in terms of the different years it took, I think the first, and for me, becomes the Brazzaville Declaration in 2007, where the conversation actually started to say that it is important to recognize the youth participation in the water sector. And from there, the different initiatives on the continent have tried to take into account that. But of course, I think concerted and some serious effort happened and culminated into the AMCAO decision, the AMCAO EXCO decision in June 2013, where the AMCAO Executive Council approved the draft strategy, the policy and strategy, and directed the Secretariat, the AMCAO Secretariat, to implement the strategy. And it also recommended to member states as well as regional economic communities, the SADC, the Southern Africa Development Community for Southern Africa, for example, to consider the domestication and implementation of this strategy. So it is based on the principles of human right to water and sanitation, as well as integrated water resources management, inclusiveness, and partnerships, and aims to ensure youth engagement for sustainable development and management of the water sector towards economic and social prosperity. So you can see the different strategic objectives include enhancing social and economic development by investing in youth, ensuring sustainability, by empowering youth through knowledge, promoting innovation through recognizing and supporting the contribution of young people in the sector, improving governance and leadership, as well as building cross-sectoral linkages and broadening the sector. So for the SADC, we tried to domesticate this continental initiative, and so came the youth initiative for the SADC region. Next slide, please. And this was for us, I think for me especially, something that was quite exciting in that nothing much had been happening in the sub-region in the subcontinent for a while in terms of like a concerted institutionalized participation of youth in the sector. So it came from the recognition, and of course, yes, the same recognition of youth comprising over 50% in SADC member states, and yet they make up the largest group of the unemployed. And so it looks at programs, and it has been included in the Regional Strategic Action Plan, which is a 5-year package or plan that drives the water sector, or the SADC water sector. And it's under the 3rd program, and it looks at, one, establishing and operationalizing the SADC Youth Water Network, and effective youth participation and coordination, youth capacity development, and innovation, entrepreneurship, and employment creation. So for me, like I said before, it becomes an important step towards actually having something concrete in terms of institutionalizing the youth participation in the sector, especially taking into account that for the longest time, youth efforts have been, in a way fragmented and coordinated. And then having a regional organization that actually includes this as part of their programs, for me, was quite exciting. Next slide, please. However, I think what is important is to understand that the challenges will always be there. I mean, it's never been an easy road, especially when you're talking about youth participation. Budgetary allocations remain one of the biggest challenges, and for us, it it is about, yes, it's written in there, but going beyond the rhetoric, going beyond the papers, it's actually implementing the activities, and that has to be resourced and money has to be found somewhere. So we are working towards resourcing the program, and that is just one of many other challenges. But I think it's exciting. It's an exciting time, and it takes a long time. Like I said, we started in 2008, but it never really caught on until 2014, after the launch of the AMCAO policy and strategy, as well as during the development or regional consultations for the formulation of the regional strategy action plan. So there is such a thing as the right time. So however, I think one has to be ready, and for us it was important to always and at all times be able to engage and have access to engage and lobby and continuously lobby and advocate for youth participation in the sector. And it requires a lot of patience, persistence, and passion, because for the most part, when it is frustrating, it's really because the older people, as I call them, don't want to listen. But we have to keep pushing on, and it becomes important, and sometimes it actually pays, and it has paid, I think. So that's mainly it. I just wanted to share a few things in terms of how we've gone through it and how we're doing. So right now it's about resourcing it. It's about going forward and being able to implement the activities. So just a few pictures that just show some of the activities that we've been involved in. But in terms of it, so last year, a lot of the youth groups, especially because looking at it in terms of the regional program, came out of a national process in that it was a bottom-up approach. So there've been also a lot of engagement. There's been also a lot of engagement with the youth groups at the national level in all 15 states to participate in the Water Action Month. So these are just some of the pictures that from the last year's participation. I'm still waiting for pictures from this year's participation. Thank you very much.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Joanna, for this great presentation. I think it's great to kind of look at the big picture and see some of the recommendations you gave on how to really have success in working with this particular population segment. So I'll fast forward over to Bimala's presentation. So just bear with me as I click through the slides on my end. And Bimala is joining us from Nepal. Okay, almost there. And so I ask for your patience if we have any technical difficulties. Okay, so Bimala, I will go ahead and unmute you. So if you can unmute your microphone on your end, you'll be able to speak. Okay, so Bimala, can you try speaking and see if we can hear you clearly? Bimala, are you there? Okay, Bimala, can you hear me clearly? Okay. Okay, Bimala, we can't hear you on our end. So in the interest of time, what I might do is pass the mic over to Temple, and then, oh, I think I hear sound coming from you. Are you there?
Yeah, hi.
Okay, I can hear you, but the volume is very, very faint. Is there any way that you can turn up the volume on your microphone?
Hello?
Okay, Bimala, can you try speaking?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now. So as long as everybody turns up their volume, I think we'll be able to hear you.
Yeah. So should I move ahead?
Yeah, and I can control the slides for you.
Yeah.
Okay, so go ahead, Bimala, you have the floor.
So yeah, thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. And yeah, it feels good to be talking about youth involvement in WASH because I myself am youth, I believe so. So yeah, talking about youth, youth are the active and energetic people. They bring in the lot of additional support to the team. They come up with fresh new ideas. For instance, we started out our menstrual hygiene management campaign 2 years ago, and during the earthquake response phase in Nepal, and we conducted various awareness raising sessions at different camps. And basically, we were uh, struggling to raise fund to conduct sessions, but we came up with a low-cost alternative of which is social media campaigning, and we collected voices and opinions of general public on menstrual hygiene management issues. And even recently, in Women's Day, that is in 8th March, we were able to collect voices addressing the issues, and also incorporating the solution to menstrual hygiene management. And we were able to collect more than 100 voices in that particular day. So the purpose of collecting these voices is that we intend to project the collected voices in the formulation of the policy itself. So with this collected 100 voices, we are helping, or rather we are supporting WaterAid Nepal in the formulation of menstrual hygiene management policy framework action plan in Nepal. So which is very like big achievement for us, because we started out small, but in gradually as the time spent, we are able to um, address it in the policy itself. And similarly, back in the times, we also established our menstrual hygiene management club in one of the public school, where when we interacted with them for the first time, they were reluctant to share their menstrual issues with us, and they shared that they could not even share the difficulties they go through, the physical pain, to their teacher in the school. But now, when we go back to the school and talk to the kids, they are opening up to the issue, and they are like shedding the shells and of the shyness and talking and accepting menstruation as a natural process, rather than just something that has to be neglected. So that is also quite an achievement for us. And you know, similarly, uh, I firmly believe that youth are in, if youth are engaged since the beginning of WASH intervention, then they can actually become lifelong contributors to the WASH sector. And the most critical thing that we have to keep in mind is shaping their attitudes. Youth has to know the core idea why we are intervening such action in the particular community. Like, for example, you can take the steps that we follow for hand washing purpose. We teach the participants to follow the 7 hand washing steps. But the youth who is also teaching the participants, they have to know that it's not just about teaching them 7 steps, and it's not uh, about just doing it one time, and but it's more, but it has got more to it. Like, they have to understand if they perform the hand washing steps regularly in their life, then the infection of diseases can be prevented, and they can lead a healthy life. So it has to be, understood by the youth, as well as they have to make the participants understand, and they also have to encourage the participants to share the knowledge they gain from the various training sessions, or similar to hand washing steps to other people, to the people they know, so that the information can be circulated. So can you go to the next slide, please? Next slide. Next slide. Can you move to the next slide? Yeah, thank you. So yeah, uh, involving youth in yeah, okay, okay. In involving youth in how we should involve youth is quite critical. Like, first, I think they need to be create an environment where they can actually communicate properly, freely, and they feel motivated, they are supported, and they are guided. They need to be accepted in that environment. And then, of course, they will face various kind of difficulties and obstacles while performing activities. But then you need to be able to interact with them and counsel them and give them, logical reasoning why the intervention is important and how they have to execute it. So for that purpose, you need to sit down with them, give them time, and understand their point of view, respect their perspective as well. And they also need to learn to function as active members, and it can be done only by interacting with them and giving them clear direction how and what they have to do and how they have to perform. And they also need to be constantly challenged, to perform better, because we can assure it by developing a platform where they can identify and explore opportunities. Like, you cannot confine them to just the indoor place. You have to give them a chance to go to the field, interact with the people, and actually get a perspective, get an idea how the grassroots level people are actually living, so they can get that through the exposure in the field. And next slide, please.
Sure.
Hello,
And I
next
think
slide.
I think there's a slight delay from when I change the slides to when you see them as well.
Yeah, this is fine, this is fine. The after school program slide is fine. Yeah, so should I continue? Yeah. So GUTHI works in the informal settlement, and we implement programs similar to after-school program, where we mobilize our Nepali youth at GUTHI volunteer group, and they actively participate in it. So we actually groom the youth group to become better voice actors in the future, and we empower them to actually develop their own plan of actions. But before that, we also involve them in our own GUTHI's own program activities, like after school program, and there is Rain Club, which we were able to form under the emergency rain project. Yeah, next slide, please. And they regularly clean, this rain club actually regularly clean their school compounds, and the school is much better in terms of sanitation than it earlier was, but we have got a lot of things to do in terms of sanitation and hygiene in the school itself. And we were also able to extend the concept of rain club in the near area. So now the children who are in the rain club in the school itself and the children who are in the rain club in the slum area can actually interact with each other and share the knowledge as well. So that's what we are doing. And next slide, please. Next slide, please. So yeah, we interact with the children, also interact with the youth group, and we also interact with the local people. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. So yeah, creation of friendly environment is very important. Like children has to open up, and even youth has to feel they have to own the issue. You know. Next slide, please. Next slide. You can just rapidly go through the next slide. Yeah, they have to be encouraged. Yeah, next slide. And like I talked in previous time, they have to be exposed in the field. And yeah, knowledge sharing. They just have to share the knowledge among the other people as well, rather than just waiting for the event to happen. So yeah. So these are the pictures that we conducted hand washing session in different project sites that we actually work on. So yeah, you can go to the next slide. So yeah, next slide. So yeah, this it's not just, like I told, it's not just about empowering ourselves, and it's not just about empowering the participant, but also involving other people. And in this particular picture, you can see that the mothers of the children were actually helping their kids to, you know, wash their hands. So that's what we are trying to do, like incorporating every stakeholder, like from community level to actually engage themselves in wash initiatives. So yeah. So yeah, this actually is something that we did recently. Like we were able to engage youth in income generation activities by setting up micro enterprises, and this one particular is the setting up of rain plumbing at one of the internally displaced people camp in one of our project site in Bhaktapur under emergency rain project, and then we also provided them with basic plumbing skills, and they were able to, you know, um, actually help and contribute in the installation of rainwater harvesting system in the camp site, and now they are supplied with regular water supply. And then this one is particularly, we also started a production of liquid soap, and we set the micro enterprise, and we provided them basic skill of producing liquid soap, and it has actually, these two enterprise has actually helped them to you know, on and support their family financially. So it has actually helped them to strengthen the economic status. So yeah, this one is of menstrual hygiene management campaign, which we recently did in 21st March on the occasion of World Water Day. So yeah, next slide. So yeah, we also have initiated water campaign from this year, and we plan to run it throughout the year. And last year as well, on the occasion of Water Action Month, we actually did social media campaigning. So this year we are planning to run it for a whole year. So yeah, we do it through exhibition. Like this particular picture is taken from Vishwaniketan School, where we did exhibition addressing water and sanitation issues. And during when we actually did this particular exhibition, we were like very surprised to know that children did not know like in their school there is rainwater harvesting system installed. So it was quite surprising for us. So the lesson that we learned was that we just not have to limit ourselves in the construction of infrastructure, whether it's rainwater harvesting or renovation of toilet. We also have to impart the soft skill, like the children has to know, or whoever the beneficiaries are, they need to own the responsibility and take up the responsibility of maintaining the infrastructures, of knowing what kind of what why wash is important in their life. So that's what we learned the lesson while interacting with the kids in the exhibition itself. So yeah, this we do it through awareness raising sessions. So yeah, this one picture is particularly taken in the IDP camp at Liwali, where we conducted awareness raising sessions on menstrual hygiene management particularly. So yeah, this one picture is particularly from the 21st March, where the kids actually, the youth actually performed street drama and engaged a lot of people. Like the theme was to address water campaign. So yeah, team building is very important and it cannot be neglected. Like you cannot achieve all the things alone. So yeah, building team is very important, and youth has to be able to, respect and work in team. So after the event, we actually make sure that we have our team meetings to share each other's learnings and things we need to improve for the next time, like for the next event. And then we also make sure that our team documents the activities we conduct. At least one blog article has to be written based on the event, and it has to be shared among us. And also through, we share it through our social media campaigning, and it actually helps to sharpen the writing skill as well. And we also like platform for Nepali youth at GUTHI, which is a platform for them, because they are groomed, and actually emerging member has to meet at least once a week to share the work progress and what they are planning for the future interventions. So it actually helps to build in the team spirit and enhance the speaking skill, because youth sometimes, or rather most of the times, are reluctant to share the ideas among their peers, and they feel shy. They shy away. But we try to, encourage them to speak out their ideas and share, and just come to the concrete conclusion from the discussion. So this particular picture is for the water campaign. We are doing that through our social media, Facebook page, and we also do similar kind of social media campaign for our menstrual hygiene management, and we have and the page is called Period Stock, and then so yeah, we also collect feedback from the participants and make them, work in a group and present what they have learned. We document it through a video, we share it through our social media, and we actually use it for the policy advocacy. Whenever we have any consultation meeting, we actually advocate for it. And so, yeah. So, yeah. So, and in the I would like to say that all youth is a platform where they can identify themselves, and they can actually speak out their mind, share their ideas, and where they are respected, and where they are encouraged to do better. So if they get those facilities, those guidance from the senior or the colleagues, then they can actually be an asset to us, and they can actually make a lot of difference in whatever work we do in WASH field. So yeah, that's the end of my um, talk. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much, Bimala. I think all of those visuals were amazing. Really good to see, programs in action. And I can say the same about Keith's presentation as well. And Bimala, great to see a good mix of hard skill and training on how to physically build infrastructure around water and sanitation, and also soft skill, how to maintain it, and the empowerment aspect of working with a community and public speaking, all of that. Really great presentation. Thank you very much. I will pass the mic over to Temple. Temple, I've sent you an unmute request, so if you can unmute your microphone, we can get started. Oh, and I'm not quite sure why. While you unmute yourself, Temple, I'm going to start the PowerPoint again from this slide. Okay. Great. So Temple, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Wonderful. Okay, great. So I know that we're running a little bit late, everyone. Thanks so much for your patience and for remaining online. I think all of our speakers have been very engaging, and some wonderful feedback has come through the question channel, which I will share at the end of our session. And so Temple is our last speaker today. So Temple, you have the floor, and I can also send you the mouse control if you'd like to control the slides yourself.
Oh no, you can do that for me. Thank you.
Okay, sure. Okay, thanks, Temple. You have the floor.
Okay, hello everyone. I am Temple Oreki, the national coordinator and also the Nigerian country representative of HopeSpring Water. HopeSpring Water as much as possible to provide safe water and sanitation to people in Africa. And for the Water Action Month, we engage the youth in several activities where we focused on mainly youth in school. To start with, the youth constitute the major proportion of Nigerian population. The population of Nigeria at the moment is about 180 million people with an average age of 18. And it's important that in any sustainable development plan we involve the youth, which is why HopeSpring decided to follow or chart that course. And we realized that the best way to get the youth involved in our agenda is to go to schools to engage them in our activities. And we had to start from the primary school, secondary and tertiary institutions. And that was the plan to start with. And that was how we engaged the youth for the Water Action Month. And for our sensitization campaign, which was carried out this month, we involved 10 schools in 3. Next slide, please. Good. Yeah, so that is our activities, the different schools that were involved in our sensitization campaign. The North Central region, Southeast and Southwest region. Next slide, please. For the North Central region, where we had about 4 or 5 schools that were involved in this campaign, what we basically did was to organize an orientation session for the students of both primary and secondary schools. We had about 650 participants at the time of sending in this slide, and obviously the campaign still continued, so we had more participants than that. And then the aim of our campaign was basically to get the students to be involved in WASH activities, and the way we could do that was to bring up the idea of WASH clubs in schools. So all the schools that were involved in this activity, we were trying to push for each school to get a WASH club that can involve the students and let them actively participate in WASH activities in their schools. And then we realized that teachers offers us the best opportunity to get these students involved, because they are in constant touch with these students and they can easily coordinate events of WASH activities in schools. So, and that was how we were able to succeed with the campaign, because we had to involve the teachers as volunteers. And we engaged the students in a question and answer session, and also did some presentation of writing materials as incentives to the participants. Next slide, please. This was the activity in the southeast region of the country. We had about 4 schools, and the participants were, as at this time, about 800. The same agenda was also carried out in these schools, where we engaged the students in WASH activities and also raised or pushed for the establishment of WASH clubs in the schools. And we also got the teachers engaged as well, as we did in other schools that we've been involved with. And if you look at the pictures, you see the HopeSpring Water volunteers, most of them which are teachers in these schools. Next slide, please. We brought up this idea, and we believe it's actually can be successful. And for us to sustain it, we'll have to have a sustainability plan. First thing we noted was that collaboration is important in order for this idea of WASH clubs in schools in Nigeria to be successful. It's important that we collaborate with other NGOs and other government parastatals that are also involved with youth and education, such as the National Orientation Agency. And then also, as part of our sustainability plans, we also intend to mobilize more teachers as volunteers in different regions of the country. We have 6 geopolitical zones in Nigeria, and we intend to cover these 6 zones as our campaign continues. Another sustainability plan we have is to also train these teachers, who we call the trainers. So before these teachers are engaged or involved in our activities, we intend to give them training on what they should and should not do as coordinators of the WASH clubs in their different schools. And to keep the participants engaged and to make it more interesting, we also intend to organize annual quiz competitions among WASH club members in different schools, and also have a challenge where these students are made to further appreciate the importance of WASH and be more engaged in WASH activities. Next slide, please. And in conclusion, just like I've mentioned earlier, collaboration is key to the success of this program. And that is a key point. we also believe that if we empower the youth of this generation, it's as good as empowering the present generation and also empowering our future generation. So it's important that we join hands to raise WASH champions in Nigeria, because a water secure future is actually achievable if we all put hands on deck to solve water crisis in the country and the globe as well, the world at large. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Temple, for that amazing presentation. I think it's great to look beyond engaging youth today and look at how do we keep that in a sustainable way. So I think your example of the WASH clubs in schools is particularly important. So I think that was a great way actually to wrap up our presentation. I know that we've gone a little beyond, a lot beyond the hour that we had originally allotted. So thank you to everyone who's still online with us and part of the conversation. I'd like to open it up to questions and answers as well right now, and open discussion from the group. On the screen here, you have the email addresses of each of our speakers in case you'd like to follow up with them individually. I'm just looking at the question feed. We've had not as many questions, but more feedback on the speakers. I'm saying Evans from Zambia says this is brilliant presentations from the speakers, that the Zambia Youth H2O Youth Forum has been working with WaterAid in Zambia and raising more WASH awareness in schools, colleges, and universities. Other feedback from Nepal and Togo saying that all great speakers and great presentations. Training from Dose Sosuga says training is a great way to raise awareness on saving water and sanitation, and a great way to achieve our goals as well. So that education piece also fits into the sustainability aspect of access to water and sanitation and working with youth. So if anybody has particular questions, I'm happy to open the floor. So I see Monica Worley, I see you have your hand up, so I'm happy to unmute you if you'd like to ask your question. And if you can, if it's for a particular speaker, feel free to voice that as well. So Monica, I've unmuted you if you'd like to ask your question.
Ah, yo estaba oyendo un webinar.
Monica, do you happen to have a question? Okay. I'm thinking that the raise your hand feature might have been accidentally activated. Okay, a couple of questions from the audience through the chat box. From Prakash Amatya in Nepal, what is the incentive to teachers leading the campaign? I'm thinking this is focused on Temple's presentation. So what is the incentive to engage teachers in working with youth? So Temple, would you like to answer this question?
Yeah, for the teachers, yes, Alex. Yeah. For the teachers, can you hear me?
I can, yes.
Good. The teachers, we actually initially thought it was going to be difficult to get the teachers involved in our campaign because we wanted to make sure they are active. And we thought about the interest. We came to the conclusion that for the teachers to be more involved, they would like to know what is in it for them. But most teachers that we approached for to be volunteers were actually happy and eager to do it without asking for much, but just be in constant touch with them to know how things are going on in the different clubs. But it's also important from our own end as the organizers to also empower these teachers. And as incentives, we intend to occasionally train these teachers and, if possible, have certificates for them. And that is just a simple way of empowering them, apart from the fact that the teachers are willing and would actually want to be involved in such activities.
Great. I think those are all good points, and I think also realizing that teachers often have a very unique perspectives on what works and what doesn't with regards to engaging children in a classroom setting. So I think those are all great points and a great question, Prakash. Question from Megan Wilson. What role do you think social media plays in engaging youth in water? It's not tailored for a specific speaker, but I know, Keith, your presentation has touched a bit more on social media, Bimala as well. Do either one of you guys want to take this question? Happy to unmute you.
I'm happy to take that question.
Go ahead, Keith.
So I think social media has got two functions really that immediately spring to mind. First of all, I think it's really important for young people to engage them through social media and also to respond to them through social media. It's a very natural place for young people to go now, and we need to
No, Keith, I think we lost your audio again. I'll wait a couple of seconds for it to come back. It tends to just drop for a little bit. Keith, I'm not sure if you can hear me, but...
I can get a feel.
Oh, you're back on now. Sorry, you're back on now, but you cut out right when you said it. It's a very natural place for young people to go.
Okay, so it's a good place for us to share messages. It's also a good place for us to measure our own impact, so we can see how successful we've been by the way social media responds. So I think it's a gift in many ways, because it gives us a social space that's in many ways transparent, in a way that you can't see behind closed doors. You don't know what people are discussing offline socially, but you can get a glimpse of it online.
Yeah, I think all of that is a great point, and there's a lot of tools with social media to have insights and analytics on how many clicks your posts have gotten, how many views your videos have gotten, how far your reach has extended. And Keith, to take it one step further, do you see any drawbacks of using social media, or what are some limitations of it from your experience?
Well, I'm currently trying to set up a closed social media group to link Scouts in the UK and Madagascar. And institutionally, because it's WaterAid Madagascar, WaterAid UK, Scouts Association Madagascar, and Scouts Association UK. As you can imagine, there's a lot of paperwork that needs to be in place to make sure everybody's happy with that. Now we've got the paperwork in place, so the next step is making sure that the adults that are with the young people are comfortable and confident in the use of social media in that way. And also with that group, we're going to have a moderator from each organisation, but we don't know how much time it's going to take. So as with any resource, you know, it's a huge benefits, but there are also those organisational issues that can grow or shrink depending on the nature of the organisation, and then there are those sort of staffing costs that are associated with setting that sort of thing up and then maintaining it.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's a great segue into our next question, which is also for you, Keith, and from Prakash in Nepal. How expensive is it to use social media in your experience? And is there true interest of youth, which I think you kind of touched on the second part of the question, but the first part is there a cost to it?
Gosh, beyond the hardware cost and the cost of connecting to the internet, there is no additional cost within social media, depending on which channel you use. I know Twitter at the moment is thinking of creating a company's elite version of Twitter. I don't quite know what that means, but at this stage, you can use all of the social media through a free account. You just need that hardware to back it up and then the network to support it. I'm a huge fan. I've been engaging through social media for sort of 7-8 years, and I like it. I think it's a useful addition. I don't think it's the only way that we should be talking to people though.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely see it as a tool in your toolkit, if you will. And I know, to also answer your question, Prakash, there are options to pay for things like ads or to promote your posts. There are options to pay, but it's by no means a necessity to have a successful campaign or to engage with people. Question for Joanna from Bimala, one of our speakers. The question is, could Joanna inform us if they fund strengthening existing youth enterprises, or if you perhaps have a recommendation for that? So Joanna, let me just see if she's still online. Bimala, I think Joanna might have lost connection or had to go offline for another engagement. So I would recommend maybe reaching out to her by email, and her email address should be on your screen. Question for Temple, and I'll have this be our last question to kind of keep us roughly at an hour and a half. How easy or difficult was it to get schools engaged in your WASH campaign? Was it particularly difficult to get primary schools on board, perhaps? Or could you talk maybe a bit about the difference in difficulty for different age groups? So I'll send you an unmute request, Temple, and if you can unmute your microphone and address that question, and then that will wrap us up for today.
Hello, Alex.
Yeah, hi, Temple. We can hear you. Yes, we can. Thank you.
Okay, that was a good question. In terms of getting the schools involved, it was particularly not difficult at this stage to get schools involved in our activities. All we had to do is first ensure you give them a prior notification and send them a letter beforehand and informing them of your activities and what you intend to do. And you find out that these schools are actually, most of them, they are interested in also getting their students sensitized on water, sanitation, and hygiene as well. So it was actually not difficult to get the schools involved. The only challenge might be getting the schools in rural areas. The most schools there might not access to the schools might be a challenge. So that is one thing that you might have to bear in mind, and it would be nice if you find a way to access those schools in the rural areas where the transportation network is actually very poor. Thank you. I hope that answers the question.
I think that's a great answer, realizing that schools exist within a certain local context that has its limitations or challenges with regards to communication, transport, access to resources, things like that, and that programs will have to operate within those challenges. And so I guess to truly wrap us up, let's maybe ask Bimala a similar question for you. So we hear some challenges from Temple in the Nigeria context. What are some frustrations or challenges in Nepal? And that will wrap us up for today. So Bimala, I'll go ahead and unmute you. So if you can activate your microphone and address that question of some challenges or obstacles that you've faced in working with youth.
In terms of we working in a school, like the time management is very like problematic, because the kids are having, you know, school sessions, and they have to school has got the pressure of completing their course syllabus, so time management can be really challenging. And then other than that, it's not much of the challenge, because we actually work in the schools where there is a very deep problem in terms of wash. So in terms of like talking to the school management committee and the teachers, they're quite open, because they know the issues, so they know they need help. Then they actually look out for the support. So yeah, time management is the only challenge that can come up. So, yeah.
That's great to hear as well, in terms of not only accessing the schools, and in some instances that's the easy part, but it's working within their schedules, the curriculum. Oftentimes there's too much material to even teach in the first place, so how do you fit extra sessions on wash, sanitation, water, all of that. So thanks so much. Thank you to all of our speakers, all of our attendees. I think this has been a wonderful way to wrap up Water Action Month and our webinar series. We'll be sharing the recordings for this webinar, as well as our 3 other webinars that we had this month, on the End Water Poverty website. And if you're signed up to our newsletter, we'll be sharing that through our newsletter as well. So if you're not signed up for our newsletter, you can feel free to go on our website and do that. Thanks again so much for tuning in. Thank you to our amazing speakers. It's been my privilege and honor to take part in this session with you all. So looking forward to working together again, and to perhaps another webinar series next year for Water Action Month.
Yeah, sure.
Have a great day, evening to everyone. Thank you.
Thank you too.
Thanks, Keith.